Perfect. Thank you, Heather. Perfect. So welcome everyone to this meeting of the Planning Committee held on the 20th of July 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Apologies for absence. I believe we have an apology from Councillor Farmer.
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Farmer, who is attending a deanery synod.
Perfect. All in favour of accepting that?
Thank you.
Looks unanimous to me. Perfect. Does anyone have any declarations of interest? I can't see any.
None.
In which case I shall move on to the minutes even of the meeting of the Planning Committee, which took place on the 29th of June. Are we happy to accept those as a true record of that meeting? Again, looks unanimous to me. Have we received any public questions in accordance with Standing Orders 22 and 23?
None received, Chair.
Perfect. Letters of objection. We've had a number of letters that I've seen about 25 Park Avenue North. So just to note that we've received those and we'll consider them in our what's the word? Considerations. Have we received any other letters of objection?
None received.
Thank you, Mim. In that case, I'll move straight on to the bulk of the agenda, which is applications registered weeks ending 26th of June, 2nd of July, and 9th of July. And to save Mrs. Ramsden sitting through all of the previous items to the one that she's interested in, I will take the item at 25 Park Avenue North first, which is on page
32.
32.
Yeah.
If councillors could just turn to that one. So it's application 5/2021 1690 at 25 Park Avenue North. I'm required to say at this juncture that many of us have been in contact with a neighbouring resident to the applicant and listened to their concerns, but we have an open mind and have not prejudged this decision and will consider it based on the discussion that we have this evening. I believe that's the crux of the message that I have to give on behalf of councillors. Perfect. So in that case, Mim, if I could ask for your observation first, and then I'll invite the resident to speak for 3 minutes on this one.
Okay, we have some pictures to accompany this, and they are pictures 64 to 66, Hev.
Yep, that's fine. Up on the screen already.
Oh, thank you. Right, okay, so I think the picture that you can see there is sort of like an earlier picture where the building in question is actually being rebuilt. So this is for a retrospective application and is for the retaining but relocating of 4 external air conditioning units. Currently they're sited on the southern side boundary of the host dwelling and close to neighbouring property number 23A, Park Avenue North. The proposal shows the relocation of the units along with the fitting of acoustic covers and also close boarded fencing to mitigate any detrimental impact on neighbouring properties. 1 air conditioning unit is proposed to be sited to the front of the property with the fencing surrounding it, measuring 1 meters high, and will favour the front side boundary of number 27 Park Avenue South. Park Avenue North. However, this property is set back further from the frontage of the host property and could possibly be unaffected. The remaining 3 air conditioning units are to be positioned further down in the garden area along the southern side boundary, and the fenced area in total will be 6.6 metres long and 1.8 metres high. A noise impact assessment has been carried out, and the report concludes that movement from the current site to the proposed site, plus with the acoustic cover and the use of the close bordered fencing, noise impact would be significantly reduced. The siting of both of the units do not appear to have a detrimental impact on the character or appearance of the Harpenden Conservation Area, as they're covered with a natural looking material and are placed in positions where they're hidden from view. I've suggested consider no objection subject to appropriate design and use of materials in the Harpenden Conservation Area, and provided that there is no loss of amenity to neighbouring properties.
Thank you, Mim. I've just got to correct my screen. There we go. In that case, I'd like to invite Mrs. Ramsden to speak for up to 3 minutes.
Okay. I am unmuted, aren't I now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, look, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. This application should be turned down because of the noise impact on our rear garden and on the front garden at number 27 Park Avenue North. As Miriam explained, this is a retrospective application. The developer of the new house at 25 Park Avenue North installed a commercial scale air conditioning system without consent. They fixed 3 large condenser units facing us and 1 unit facing number 27. The planning enforcement team did intervene, fortunately, because we now know from the noise impact assessment that the noise would have had a devastating impact on us. The proposal now is to move the condenser units and to put them into acoustic boxes. And the applicant claims that this is enough not to damage our amenity. I think that the applicant probably is doing just enough to reduce the noise inside our houses. But an important caveat to that is that they haven't actually specified the acoustic boxes. But the main issue, and the reason to turn down the application, is that the applicant wants to position the boxes just beside our garden fences. That means that the boxes will be less than 1 metre from our respective gardens, rather than the 9 metres indicated in the noise assessment report for garden protection. Now, you may well ask how the planning documents that support this application concluded that there would be no loss of amenity to us. Well, look more closely and you will see that the substantial front garden of number 27 is not treated as external amenity space. As for our rear garden, which is quite large, the drawings suggest that they've taken our external amenity space to be, at a pinch, a little bit of patio just outside the back door. I don't think this is necessarily the fault of the noise experts. They never visited us. I guess the developer told them what to treat as external amenity space. And the result, the boxes will move just enough to reduce the noise inside our houses, but no further. So the noise impact assessment effectively excludes our gardens from the equation. That is contrary to the National Planning Policy Framework and all that flows from it. And it is also, quite frankly, underhand and deeply unfair. So I urge you to see this application for what it is and to give your strongest recommendation to the St Albans planners that they throw it out, put it on the compost heap. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Ramsden. Committee members, does anyone want to speak on this application? Bert, is that a hand?
Yeah.
Perfect, cool. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Basically, the application's here because I believe permitted development rights were withdrawn. So anything like this has to come through as application. The other thing is, can I just clarify this 9 metres? Is it 9 metres away from the applicant's house, but a lot closer to the amenity area of the next door neighbours? I think I'm on the right tack there. Thank you.
Thank you, Bert. Councillor Drake, is that a hand?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I was one of the councillors who visited the property. I can't speak with any accuracy around the required distances for these units from a particular point. However, where they are to be placed is right next door to the garden along the fence. So whilst as the resident has said, there may be sufficient space from there to protect the house, and obviously I don't know because I've not heard these units, though I have heard air conditioning units in the past. If they're alongside that fence, then they are bound to cause a noise in the garden and amenity space that is behind that house. And I cannot see, actually, as it stands, how that would not be the case. As I say, I'm not a noise expert, and having read the technical noise impact assessment, I don't think I'm much the wiser, quite frankly. But it would be clear to me by common sense that there would be considerable disruption to anybody using that garden amenity space behind the house. And it would certainly be an annoyance, and I'm not completely convinced it would actually protect the house itself, but I'm prepared to accept the resident's statement that it might do so.
Thank you, John. Councillor Turnbull.
Am I on mute or off mute?
Yeah,
Off mute.
you're on
Yeah,
muted.
thank you. Thanks, Chair. I concur with the previous councillor's comment, but more than that, as far as I can see, and I also visited the site now, but I subsequently read the so-called professionals report. And I think that's been written with a certain objective in mind to show that supposedly these units will not cause any interference if you're in the neighbour's house. However, looking at these units, effectively these are commercial units. I do not see, even with insulation, how they will not cause distress and distraction in the neighbour's garden. I think they're commercial, when they shouldn't even be considered in a situation like this. But B, one only needs to wander around the high street and listen to the noise of similar units at the back of many of the restaurants and similar properties in the high street to realise the amount of noise and fumes, etc., that these units produce. And I think this is a totally unacceptable concept. If we let this through, then anyone can put these sort of units in their back gardens in the future. Shouldn't be allowed.
Thank you, Councillor Turnbull. Do any other councillors want to make any comments on this application? Councillor Liver.
Hi, thank you. I just want to say that I agree with Councillor Drake and Councillor Turnbull. I've gone through the report, and I don't quite understand how they can come to the conclusions that they come to. They might be able, they've made an assessment on what the noise is with the current units and where they're situated, but I don't understand how they can come to the conclusions that they come to based on the information of this report. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Liver. Councillor Hill.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. To me, the 9 metres suggested in the report just seems arbitrary and convenient what the term distance correction, which I think is wrong, because as other councillors have said, I think if it's in this area, conservation area as well, it should be for the residents for themselves to decide what is their external amenity space. So yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable, and I would agree with other councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. So the sense I'm getting from committee is that we won't be going with no objection as a recommendation. I'm just keen to get, obviously it's loss of amenity, that bit of the language will stay the same. Just on the recommendation itself, could I get a show of hands from committee members who would prefer express concern? And those who would prefer refusal? Okay, I think that's pretty clear. In that case, do I need to go to a second vote with that as a proper motion, Mim, or are we happy to take that as a recommendation
Recommend
on that
refusal.
basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So we're going with recommend refusal based on loss of amenity to neighbouring properties. In which case, thank you for coming, Mrs. Ramsden. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but I'm sure that you have better things to be doing with your Tuesday night. So do also feel free to pop off.
Okay, thank you for the offer. I will leave the meeting now. Thank you for your interest in this. Thank you.
No worries.
Good night.
Good night. Right, back to page, I think I'm right in saying 19. Yeah, page 19. We'll take it from the top. So it's 5/2021 1274 at 103 to 105 Lower Luton Road. Mim, your observations on this one?
Okay, right, okay, let me just get plans. Okay, so pictures are showing. Okay, so the application is showing proposed changes to the south side of the existing building with the removal of the existing lean-to canopy at 103 to 105 Lower Luton Road. And the replacement with a single-storey side extension. This will be sited behind the existing external wall and attached to the main existing storage area. The proposed size and scale of the proposed extension does not appear to impact on neighbouring property in terms of loss of amenity and is proposed to be used for storage purposes. With regards to the application site, the majority of it is set in flood zone 2, which is medium probability of flooding, with the proposal area itself sited in flood zone 3, which is the high probability of flooding because it's got the River Lee running just 3 metres alongside it. A flood risk assessment has been submitted in line with relevant policies and concludes that there are no supplemental flood defences protecting the existing development over and above the protection provided by the existing ground and floor slab levels, and states that as this new proposal is to be tied into the existing levels, there will be no increase to flood risk. Mitigation measures have been included within the flood risk assessment, which states that flood resilient construction methods should be incorporated into the build and that all electrical points should be on an isolated circuit and wired from above, just to be on the safe side. And looking on the St Albans application site today, I noticed that new comments from Thames Water had also been put online stating that certain conditions regarding groundwater risk management permits should be incorporated into any conditions should permission be granted. No letters of objection, highways were okay with it, and the environmental agency had expressed no comment.
Thank you, Mim. Do any councillors want to come in on this one? I can't see any hands. If anyone trying to wave at me, do shout. No, in which case, I think, yeah, so long as the flood risk point that we've got in there is made, I think no objection is perfectly reasonable. In which case, all in favour of the recommendation?
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So next up is 5/2021 1615 at 133 Crabtree Lane. Your observations on this one, then?
Okay, we have some more pictures for this one, please, Hem.
Coming up. There we go.
Right, this proposal shows a single-storey front extension which is set behind a high hedge within the building lines of the property, which will be hidden from the properties opposite and set well back from the boundary of the neighbouring property to the side of the site, which offers no loss of amenity. Its design is in keeping with the existing property with a complementary gable roof. As the proposed floor plans do not show the intended use for this addition to the property, it's not possible to gauge whether parking provision is satisfactory. At present, it is shown as 3 parking spaces on both the existing and proposed plans. No trees or hedges will be affected by this proposal, and consider no objection.
Thank you, Mim. Councillor Turnbull.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chair. More an understanding, looking at the plan, the officer may be able to help. It obviously seems to be coming well forward of the building line. It's fitting in between the existing building and the hedge, which I think must be next to the pavement. Is that permitted? What's the general rules on building like that, sort of coming forward virtually? Looks like what, 6 feet from the hedge, therefore maybe 10 feet from the pavement. Are there any general rules in that sort of development or not?
What to, oh, I see, at the front of the building where they're putting the extra,
It's coming forward.
it's coming past the front building line. I mean, very often they say they don't like it to come forward of the building line, but I don't really know, to be honest, because there's plenty of room for them to extend there. So it's down to the planning officer at the end of the day. I'm not really quite sure how they would look at this one. Because on the actual,
I was looking more for guidance because I always thought the building line front was sort of not necessarily sacrosanct, but something one always had to consider quite carefully.
yeah, I don't really know with this one, to be honest. I can't really answer that.
The
Well,
thing I
are
would
we-
ask, I'm not sure about planning, but well, so I'm not sure if it's a planning consideration, but if they were to take that hedge away at some point, would there then be an impact from this coming forwards? Because that was the only thing I was a bit worried about, other than the parking, which I think perhaps we'll put some
What
wording
impact
in.
on the street scene, you mean?
Yeah,
Can we go back to, have we got
Yeah,
a street
sure.
scene here?
Yeah,
just aware that you don't need planning permission to take a hedge out.
zoom in a bit.
If you look at the overhead, there's an overhead view. I think it must be the first one. It's the first one in the sequence. Second one, overhead view of the street with cars and the building. And if you think of where the extension's going to be, it's going to be, you know, virtually next to the pavement.
Is there a street view?
I've got a street view. Yeah, the second one of that sequence. The next one after that. That's it. If you see where the hedge is,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's going to be infilled there.
But yeah, but I don't
It has
think
the
it'll,
advantage of being quite secluded on the street by the look of it, because it's at the end.
yeah. And also,
Yeah.
I don't think it comes forward any further than the property, although the properties are facing the other way, that it doesn't come any further forward than that property at the end of the road either. And
Yeah.
Are we able, Chair, to say we were no objection subject to subject to this caveat? You know, some expert commenting or considering whether there's any technical objection to coming forward of the building line, something like I don't know.
I think so. I would be inclined to include something about street scene as a no
Okay.
objection, subject to
no detrimental effect.
no
on the street
detrimental
scene.
impact on the street scene.
Yep.
I'd also like, if committee are so minded, to include subject to the parking, because I'm a little bit annoyed that we don't have details on what this thing is being used for, so we can't make a judgment about whether the parking would be affected.
Mm.
Councillor Paul.
Parking, I think you'll find, irrespective of how many bedrooms there are, you only need 3 spaces.
Mm.
Okay,
Even-
in that case, remove my comment about parking.
Okay.
I'm still a bit annoyed about it, but you know. Any other councillors want to make any comments on this one? I can't see any, in which case I think the motion we've fallen onto is no objection, subject to no detrimental impact on the street scene.
Okay.
All in favour of that? Perfect. I think there was a majority there. I think perfect. So
Yeah.
moving on to 5/2021 1816 at 39 Common Lane. Your observations on this one, Mim?
Okay, this application shows a proposal for a single-storey side extension, which is to be sited on the right-hand elevation and be used to incorporate open plan living accommodation. The host property is set on a corner plot with a boundary screened by close bordered fencing and groups of mature trees. The suggested single-storey side extension is to be set in a position that will not interfere with parking provision or impact on the street scene and neighbouring properties. The design and access statement submitted with the application states that no trees or hedges will be removed as part of this proposal. However, the proposed plans show details of a retaining wall which runs through a group of trees along the side boundary, which are shown to be removed. At the time of writing this observation, no tree survey or details had been submitted with this application. Consider express concern with regards to the potential loss of trees and subsequent loss of screening to the property.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mim. Councillor comments on this one. There we go. I can see my grid again. Councillor Drake.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is again another example of an incomplete application with regard to the trees and the neighbourhood plan. Now, I'm quite aware that we saw from the analysis that this doesn't seem to be a priority with the local planning authority. However, I think to be consistent, where we've seen such similar applications before, where they haven't properly addressed the trees vis-a-vis the neighbourhood plan requirements, that in actual fact we've recommended refusal.
Okay.
You beat me to the punch on that one, Councillor Drake. Yes, no, I would agree. I think given that there are trees being lost in particular, the fact that there's no details of regarding the trees is extremely disappointing, to say the least. Any other councillors want to comment on this one? No, in that case, if I could get council's position on recommend refusal and then the wording from with regards. All in favour? Looks unanimous to me.
Thank you.
Next one, 5/2021 1770 doesn't meet the criteria required. 5/2021 1791 38 Pipers Avenue. Your observations on this one?
Right, okay. Now, this proposal is to extend to the right-hand side of the property on both ground floor and first floor elevations. Extend on the first floor level over the existing ground floor front extension, and to extend at the rear of the property over the existing ground floor elevation, pulling the rear extension away from the neighbouring boundary line. There'll be no increase in overall roof height, and the floor design is shown to match the existing. There'll be an increase in bedroom accommodation from 3 to 4, with parking provision being amended from the side of the property to the revised parking spaces and a new crossover at the front. However, the application shows that only 2 parking spaces appear to have been provided, and the proposed new crossover seems to be sited nearer to the road junction. The application has also detailed a new boundary wall with access gates to replace the existing, but has failed to detail the proposed height. The street scene for the area shows an openness with low walls and hedges and variously designed single and 2-storey dwellings. No trees appear to be affected by this proposal. There has been a letter of objection regarding the parking and new vehicle access on St Albans District Council website. Express concern with regards to the size and scale of the proposal, which may result in a loss of private and amenity space around the property, and the proposed two-storey side extension, which appears to reduce the openness of the street scene. The additional first floor extension at the rear of the property, given the small proportion of garden amenity space, would appear dominant, and along with the inclusion of the Juliet balcony and the two-storey side extension, may create a loss of amenity to the occupiers of the single-storey property. Concerns are also expressed regarding the proposed new boundary wall, which has no details relating to height specified within the application. This therefore may also result in a loss of openness to the existing street scene and character of the area. Parking provision is also not sufficient for the increase in bedroom accommodation.
Thank you, Mim. Have Highways commented on this one at all?
I didn't see anything on Highways or from Highways on the website.
Just particularly with not knowing the height of that boundary wall, because I would have thought that's a sight line. Unless that pavement is wider than I think it is, I would have thought that would have a sightline impact if it's above a certain height.
I didn't see anything on there from Highways at all.
No, I mean, I'd like to put in some language on subject to what I can't remember what the language is we normally use for highway. Is it highway conflict?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's policy 34, so I can pick that one up for you.
Yeah, if we can add that in. Do councillors want to say anything? Councillor Turnbull.
Thanks, Chair. Based on all the caveats that the officer has just read out from her report, my reaction is enough there to refuse.
Okay.
Prima facie to refuse, not to express concern. There seems to be so many of them.
I must confess, I rather thought that as well. Any other councillors have any comments on this one? Councillor Paul.
It could be said to be a bit of overdevelopment, because you've got 4 bedrooms and only 2 parking spaces now, so that's deficient. I know that area of Harpenden, you don't get many cars parked on the road or off road.
Yeah. Any other comments from anyone? I can't see any. So I mean, as I say, my inclination is to go with Councillor Turnbull and recommend refusal on the basis of all the things we've said, plus the additional comments about concern being expressed about the potential for highway conflict. Are we minded to go with that recommendation, councillors? That looks unanimous to me.
Thank you.
5/2021 1818 does not meet the criteria, neither does 1728, neither does 1775. So we are on to 5/2021 1784 at 26 Park Avenue North. It's a busy evening for Park Avenue.
Oh, right.
Your observations on this one?
Yeah, okay, we've got some pictures for this one. There were also 2 letters of objection on St Albans website. So this proposal is for a 2-storey dwelling with roof space accommodation. However, in effect, due to its overall height, it gives the appearance of a 3-storey property. The proposed design differs from the existing properties in the road, and due to this site being in the Harpenden Conservation Area, could be detrimental to the appearance and character of both the street scene and the area. The proposed footprint of the new dwelling is larger than the original, with part of the first floor elevation being set forward past the original building line. The main bulk of the proposed 2-storey rear element of the building does not extend past the rear building lines of neighbouring properties, with the single-storey element extending further. Screening appears to be apparent along the neighbouring boundary of 24 Park Avenue North, although the application shows trees marked for removal along the boundary of neighbouring property 28 Park Avenue North, which would remove screening for this particular dwelling. In all, 4 trees and part of a hedge are marked for removal. However, there are no details regarding replanting on a 2:1 ratio submitted within the application. There is sufficient on-site parking for the increase in 4 to 6 bedrooms within the proposal, however. Consider recommend refusal. Due to the bulk, size, scale and design, this proposal will be out of keeping with both the street scene and the Harpenden Conservation Area. The removal of the trees along the boundary of neighbouring property number 28 would create a lot of screening and possible loss of amenity to the occupiers. No details have been submitted regarding the replacement of the marked trees on a 2:1 basis within the application.
Thank you, Mim. Sorry, I was just chasing my unmute button across the screen. Okay, any councillor comments on this one? I can't see any. I mean, I think the recommendation seems perfectly reasonable to me. Are we happy to go with that? Perfect. 5/20/21 doesn't meet the criteria required, nor does 1805. So we're on to 5/20/21/1807 at St Hilda's School. Your observations on this one?
Okay, we have some more pictures coming up. Now this one, the application site, as you probably are aware, is set in the Harpenden Conservation Area, and the original part of the building is locally listed. The proposed timber-clad garden building is to be positioned on the paved side of the school, adjacent to the existing pool and play area and along the side boundary of neighbouring property 23 Broadfields. There is a letter of objection on the St Albans website from this particular resident. The existing timber structure, which is currently in place, will be removed. The garden building will remain ancillary to the main building and will be used as an additional classroom, having a bathroom installed in it. Domestic air conditioning will also be installed, with the external condenser being set in the side elevation of it. This timber-clad building will not be visible from the road or car park, and no trees or hedges are proposed to be removed. It is proposed that the building will be 8.5 metres long and 2.5 metres high. The application states that the building will provide the school with essential additional teaching space. There's no information submitted as to whether there will be an increase in pupils or vehicle movement. So I have said, consider express concern with regards to possible loss of amenity to neighbouring property number 23 Broadfields due to the close proximity of the proposed garden building. Concerns are also expressed with regards to the design and use of materials may not be in keeping with the character and appearance of the Harpenden Conservation Area.
Thank you, Mim. Does anyone want to comment on this one? Councillor Hill.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'm actually quite sympathetic to this application, given that it says it's essential additional teaching space. And just on the idea of sort of being in the conservation area, well, I know that it's quite usual for temporary school, it's quite common to see temporary school buildings like this. And I know that St George's School is also in the conservation area, and they have a sort of temporary garden building like this as well, which isn't even clad and is actually probably doesn't look as good as this. What else did I write down? I looked in the Harpenden neighbourhood plan. It says 8.7. It says appropriate enlargement of existing school facilities is the most desirable way to accommodate an increase in demand. So whilst I'm sympathetic to the neighbours' concerns, this isn't an ideal or perfect application. I might be in a minority, but I'm minded towards no objection here.
I must actually say rather thought the same. In terms of no objection, subject to no loss of amenity, I thought might be a reasonable if council were minded towards that. Do any councillors have any comments on this one? Councillor Turnbull.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just concerned about how close it is to the property next door, and it's adjoining the back garden. What noise will there be going from the new building over the fence? And it's a pretty ropey looking fence. Looking at the pictures, will it cast any shade? How tall is it going to be?
2 meters, I think, 2.5 meters.
2.5, yeah.
2.5 meters. That's not too high, is it?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sympathetic, but I am slightly concerned it's going along a rear garden boundary. That's my only slight concern.
Councillor Paul.
I don't normally challenge school additional buildings, but I think I always say express concern because 23 Broadfields, or no objection subject to. And I think one of those two I'm happy with.
Okay.
I'd go with either, Chair.
Any further comments? Councillor Hill.
Yeah, I'd just be interested as to what sort of immunity, because I looked at the letter of objection from 23 Broadfields, I think it was, yeah, and their concerns were sort of noise from, they currently experience noise from the area and the school, the site, and they're concerned that if it's a school building, that will be even more. And I'd be sympathetic to loss of light or something like that, but I feel like it's kind of the nature of a school and living nearby a school that you might get sort of school noise, if that makes sense. But, well.
Yeah. Any Mim?
One of the concerns was also the air conditioning units as well. So that's just something to bear in mind.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a wording along the lines of, whilst council has no objection to the principle of this development, concerns were expressed over?
Yeah.
Is that a halfway house that we can employ?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that probably is the Councillor Turnbull.
Just indicating an interesting point before we conclude. The air conditioning unit is at the end of the building closest to the house, which is, it's another slight. I notice it's actually in the south elevation of the building, so it's another problem. And it's not. There's no insulation on it. It just seems to be a standalone unit.
Is it a commercial unit or a small?
Who
unit?
knows? Doesn't say.
Mm.
Doesn't say.
Yeah. Councillor Liver.
It does say the building will be fitted with a domestic standard.
Yeah, it does. It's the domestic air conditioning unit. It does say the condenser will be positioned to the left of the elevator. Yeah, it's on the back. It's on that elevation.
Okay.
I think your general comments about express concern or etc. covers everything.
Yeah. So I think the recommendation I'm going to propose, and let's see if it floats, is whilst the committee have no objection in principle to the development, concerns were expressed over potential loss of amenity, and then the rest of the wording from the existing motion. Are we all in favour, or a majority of us in favour of that wording? Looks unanimous to me.
Yeah.
Perfect. In which case, 5/2021 1809 doesn't meet the criteria. So on to 5/2021 1839 at 20 Morton Avenue. Your observations on this one, then?
Okay, give me a second. Right, okay, so this one is a proposal which shows plans to alter the garage for use as a cloakroom and to carry the single-storey front elevation along the remaining frontage of the property to further extend habitable accommodation. There will be no increase in bedrooms, and although there will be the loss of the garage, there appears to be sufficient parking provision on the frontage of the property. No trees or hedges will be affected by the proposal. No loss of amenity to neighbouring properties. Consider no objection.
Thank you, Mim. Just to check on the parking on the front, I'm pretty sure that this is a shared driveway between it and the neighbour.
Yep, it goes off like that.
Yeah,
So there was parking on the other side as well.
I was about to say, I'm assuming there's sufficient parking total.
Yeah,
Okay.
there did appear to be enough. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just thought I had a thought when I saw this one of I just wanted to make sure that it was still suitable with the shared drive.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any comments from councillors on this one? No. In that case, are we minded to go with the recommendation of no objection? Perfect. That looks unanimous to me. 1761 doesn't meet the criteria for consideration. Neither does 1845. So on to 5/2021, 1856 at 40 Willoughby Road. Your observations on this one then?
Oh, right. Okay. So this property is part of a semi-detached dwelling, and the proposal is to extend to the side of the property with a single-storey side extension, which runs along down to the existing rear building line. So although there's not a lot of space at the front, you can see that there's space at the back to just build, just infill. The plan shows that it has been pulled in away from the boundary of neighbouring property number 42 Willoughby Road and respects the 45-degree rule on both sides, thereby creating no detrimental impact to these neighbours. There are to be no additional bedrooms and therefore parking will not be affected, and no trees appear to be affected by this proposal. Consider no objection.
Thank you, Mim. Councillor Paul.
I don't think you can use a 45-degree rule when it's only a single story. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
No, you're right.
a 45-degree is for first floor.
Okay.
Either way, it satisfies it. Any other comments from councillors on this one? No, I mean, it seems fine to me. All in favour of no objection? Perfect, that looked unanimous. On to 5/2021, 1868 at 15 Park Hill. Your observation.
Okay, some more pictures. The application property is part of a group of terrace properties which are locally listed and set in the Harpenden Conservation Area. The proposed single-storey rear extension appears to run along the side neighbouring boundary of number 16 Park Hill, finishing at the rear building line of the host property. There's an 1800 mil high fence between these two properties, with number 16 being set at a higher ground level than the host dwelling due to the gradient in the road. The proposed loft conversion will incorporate an additional third bedroom, and there are no proposals to increase the height of the existing roofline. 4 roof lights are shown to be incorporated into the roof, with 2 at the front and 2 at the back. The application shows that the redundant chimney will be removed and works carried out to make good the area. Current parking provision is on road, as it is for other properties in this particular area of the highway. There do not appear to be any trees or hedges that will be impacted by the proposed works. nor does the proposal appear to create any detrimental impact on neighbouring properties. Consider no objection subject to no loss of amenity to neighbouring properties and subject to appropriate design and use of materials on this locally listed building sited in the Harpenden Conservation Area.
Thank you, Mim. Sorry, I lost my mute button again there for a moment. Any comments on this one from councillors? Councillor Paul.
Right, it's on my patch, so I know it well. There's no parking. If you say it's a terrace block, there'll always be parking problems. But having said that, I think the response is fairly a generic one, which covers all angles on that. I think it
Perfect.
will.
Any further comments from councillors? Can't see any, in which case, oh, Councillor Turnbull.
A quick question, Chair. No, no letter of objection from either of the neighbours.
No.
Okay.
Perfect. Any final comments on this one? No, in which case I might just go with the recommendation as set out. All in favour? Looks unanimous.
Okay.
1872 doesn't meet the criteria required. So on to 5/20/21 1860 at 4 West Common Way.
Okay, no letters of objection have been received for this one. The proposal shows a large single-storey outbuilding to be sited at the far end of the rear garden of the property. 2 existing smaller sheds are to be removed, which are currently placed along the side boundary of the garden. The proposed outbuilding is to measure 12.5 metres in length by 6.5 metres in depth, and its overall height will be 4 metres. The proposal shows the outbuilding to be divided up into different areas inside, including a toilet sink area and roof lights. One self-seeded ash tree is noted on the application to be removed. The outbuilding is proposed to be sited against a backdrop of screening of trees and hedges, which may protect the amenity of the property behind. But I was concerned about one particular property where there is a gap at the rear, where there's a gap in the trees. And I think, yeah, you can see it just here behind those little green sheds. You can just see that property, which I think it's going to, not this particular property, but that's the picture there, Javier, where I think the shed is going to spread along the backdrop there. So I don't know if it's going to have any sort of type of impact. Consider express concern regarding the size and scale of the proposed outbuilding, which could create a loss of amenity to neighbouring properties and could also be out of keeping in the Harpenden Conservation Area. Concerns are also expressed with regards to the proposed tree works, which are stated will need to be carried out prior to the siting of the outbuilding, and possibility of continued tree maintenance, which may be necessary if the outbuilding is permitted. So they have spoken about just sort of like lopping some of the, just cutting and trimming some of the trees around the area where the outbuilding is going to go. And so my concerns were, if they're going to have to need to keep doing that in the future.
Thank you, Mim. I mean, my first comment is it's very big for an outbuilding. Any comments from councillors on this one? Councillor Turnbull.
Thanks, Chair. Again, my comment is it's going to be roughly 40 feet long and about 13 feet tall. I just think it's too big, full stop.
Yeah, no, I mean, it looks a bit like a studio to me, rather than a outbuilding, but obviously we're not here to judge what it's going to be used for. Councillor Hill, was that a hand I saw?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I wouldn't necessarily be against the idea of some sort of structure in that area, given that there are 2 sheds there. But yeah, 4 meters in height is that, I think Councillor Turnbull's right, and then how long it is. I suspect if there was more assurances on the screening to that house behind, and if it was slightly smaller, I think, like you say, so that we could be sure that it was like a sort of a small like studio or gym or something. But yeah, I think it could perhaps come back with something slightly more appropriate, but I think at the minute it's not quite right.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Any further comments from councillors? Councillor Paul.
Terminology that says it needs to be ancillary to the main house. In other words, you can't use a gym. You get all your friends in and start charging them. But we are worried about big sheds becoming houses, but I think in this location that's not going to be the case. But I think we need to tie down the fact it is to be ancillary to the house for usage.
Yeah.
I think that needs to go in.
Yeah. Just out of interest, I may not have spotted it, but was there replacement of that tree that's being removed?
No, because I think because it was excuse me, a self-seeded one, and it was growing in the middle of a hedge. I think it was growing in the middle of the neighbours, theirs and the neighbours' hedge, that it was just, it had planted itself there, so they weren't going to bother.
Do we still, I'm assuming if it's a self-seeded tree, it still needs replacing under the neighbourhood plan?
I personally wouldn't bother with that one, because it is just, it's a very, very skinny looking tree that is, I think, would just personally, that's my opinion. That's not, it's not down to me, but
I mean,
you know.
I have nothing against skinny trees, but I think if it's not their fault that the tree is there and it's only a little thing, then possibly we can let it slide on this occasion. I'm just conscious, if I have to get up at any point, it's because I'm conscious I keep getting rained on from the fact that there is currently water blowing in through my window. So do forgive me, Councillor, if I pop off at any point. Any further comments on this application? Councillor Paul.
Leave my comment out because anything about ancillary use relative to the dwelling would come out in the conditions. So I think it's our problem at town to actually try and put conditions in that the local planning authority would do as a matter of course, if you get my drift.
Yeah, no, I understand. In that case, unless there are any further comments, I'm minded to go with the recommendation as set out with express concern. All in favour of that? That looks unanimous to me. Next one is 5/2021 1877 at 12 Welbeck Rise. Your observations on this one, Mim?
Right, so we don't have any pictures for this one because it's just a minor application, and it's just an application that shows that a garage which is set back along the site, along the entrance, with the entrance to the property. The proposal is to convert the garage into a study area and erect an entrance with pitched roof in front of the former garage. There's sufficient parking provision to account for the loss of the garage. No trees will be affected, and consider no objection.
Sorry, I've muted myself. Thank you, Mim. Sorry, I muted myself by accident. Any comments from councillors on this one? I can't see any, in which case I'm minded to go with the recommendation. All in favour of that?
Thank you.
Looks unanimous. 5/2021 1888 at 83 Coleswood Road. Your observations, Mim?
Again, no pictures, but no letters of objection received either. This proposal is for a single-storey side extension. It's shown to increase space to the property property in order to house a utility room and additional toilet. It will have a pitched roof, which is consistent with the existing building and will not affect neighbouring properties or impact parking or trees. Consider no objection.
Thank you, Mim. Any comments on this one? I can't see any, in which case, again, I'll move to a vote on the recommendation of no objection.
Thank you.
Perfect. 5/20/21. Hang on, sorry, I've lost it on my screen. 1458. First floor offices 9 to 10 Harding Parade. Your observations, Mim.
Oh, right. Okay. So this property has been granted permission under a prior approval application for a change of use from B1A office to C3 residential to create 1 2-bedroom flat on the first floor elevation. And the plans submitted show the proposed layout for these for the internal arrangements for this permission. The proposal also shows construction of a second floor extension for an additional 2-bedroom flat, which mirrors the internal arrangement of the first floor property. Previous concerns were raised by the Highway Authority regarding waste and recycling bins utilised by occupiers of the first floor property. The application states that refuse bins will be stored within a timber enclosure in the nearby car park. No parking has been suggested for the additional property, although this may be mitigated by its position within the town centre. There'll be no loss of amenity to neighbouring properties. The proposal is not out of keeping with the Harpenden Conservation Area and is in compliance with the Harpenden Neighbourhood Plan. Consider no objection.
Thank you, Mim. I mean, if there's one place that can get away with having no parking, it's presumably that one. Any comments from councillors on this application? No, I can't see any. I mean, personally, I think it'll look nicer once they've done it based on the plans. All in favour of this one? Perfect. On to 5/20/21/1848 at 14 Wordsworth Road. Your observations on this one, then?
Okay, got some more pictures for this one. Okay, so this application is for a small single-storey side extension, which is to be positioned between 2 walls of the existing building. The property is a locally listed building set in the Harpenden Conservation Area, and the proposal shows this small extension is to increase the size of the kitchen area. The roof form is to be a flat roof incorporating a lantern roof light. On one side of the original building are a set of full-length opening doors which lead into a playroom, opposite to which the proposed extension will be attached to the existing snug and dining area. The single-storey extension is shown to be just under 2 metres in depth and will not affect any neighbouring properties or the need for any trees or hedging to be removed or cut back. However, due to the close proximity of the proposed extension to the existing playroom, there's a possibility of loss of amenity to the existing occupiers or future occupiers of this property. And I just felt that it was a little bit like squished in. And if you can see on the fourth diagram on the picture that Heather's showing at the moment, you can see how close that extension is to those patio doors there. And I thought that would probably impact light and amenity space. Consider express concern with regards to the position of the single-storey side extension, which gives a cramped appearance to this locally listed building, which is not conducive to the Harpenden Conservation Area. Concerns are also expressed regarding its close proximity to the existing ground floor habitable room, which may result in the possible loss of amenity in terms of loss of light for the existing and future occupiers of this property.
I have to say, I think in 2 years of being on this is the first time I'm considering someone losing their own amenity. in a planning application. But no, I think, yeah, it's a very odd one, isn't it? Any comments from councillors on this one? Councillor Hill.
Yeah, well, I maybe I'm missing something, but to me it looks like the lantern roof light increases the amenity. I appreciate. So there's like a patio door which goes up to what is proposed to then just be this new extension area. So then I assume that patio door is lost.
So sorry, Councillor Hill, to interrupt. I'm assuming from the pictures, it's the patio door to the right of the new development, not the one that's leading out into what is now the development.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it.
So on diagram 4, the one that is squidged between the little white door and the new development.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't.
That's a separate room.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, there we go. I didn't spot that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, no, sorry. I just thought it was easier to stop you mid-flow. Any other comments from councillors on this one? I can't see any, in which case we might just go with the recommendation as set out. Just currently being attacked by a curtain. Sorry, give me 2 seconds. There we go. I think that was unanimous from what I saw. In which case 1783 doesn't meet the criteria. So on to 5/2021 1939 at 65 Altside Gardens. Your comments on this one then?
Okay, so no letters of objection have been received, and I don't think we've got any pictures for this one. The reason being is that this application is just showing minor amendments to the previously approved planning application. The proposal is just to replace the brickwork on the front elevation of the proposed extension with a combination of part brickwork and part hanging tile. The proposed change of materials does not appear to cause any detrimental impact to the street scene, and there are no other changes suggested within the application. Consider no objection.
Thank you, Mim. Any comments from councillors on this one? I can't see any, in which case we all minded with no objection.
Thank you.
I think that was unanimous. 5/2021 1953 at 14 Browning Road. Your observations on this one, then?
Okay, again, no letters of objection received and no pictures for this one. This property has previously had planning permission granted for a replacement dwelling, which is due to expire in October of this year, and therefore the current proposal has been submitted to replace the expiring one. There do not appear to be any changes to the previous proposal submitted. Consider no objection.
Thank you, Mim. Any comments from councillors on this one? I can't see any hands, though admittedly I appear to have lost about 2 of you. I can't see any hands. In which case I'm minded to go with the recommendation as set out. All in favour? Perfect.
Okay.
I think if I'm on the right part of the agenda, the next one is 5/2021 1742 at 4 Cross Paths. Your observation on this one, then?
Okay, again, no letters of objection, and we have some pictures for this one. This property is set on a corner plot and currently has the garage and parking sited to the front of the dwelling. The proposal is to close up the existing access with the garage to be retained for storage and to make a new access and parking around the corner of the property in Shepherd's Way. An existing road sign is proposed to be moved further along the road to make way for the new access, which will be 2.4 metres in width. 2-metre vision displays are shown on the proposal for the new access. Parking provision has been provided for 2 vehicles. A new 1.8 metre boundary fence will be continued along the remainder of the frontage of the property to retain the garage. And I'm presuming to make it so that it's sort of more retained into the sort of more privacy. Consider no objection provided that the proposal complies with policy 34 of the St Albans local district plan.
Thank you, Mim. Were there any comments from Highways on this one?
I didn't see any.
Okay. Any comments from councillors? Can't see any, in which case I'm minded to go with the recommendation as set out. All in favour?
Thank you.
Okay, that'll look unanimous to me. 1931 doesn't meet the criteria. So 5/2021 1759 at 2 Broadstone Road.
Okay, we have pictures. Yeah, sorry, we have pictures for this one, and I think we've considered this one a couple of times. There were letters of objection on St Albans website regarding sight lines and concerns regarding danger to vehicles and pedestrians, etc. My observations are this proposal highlights several small changes to the original planning application of 5/2019-2352, which was refused by the local planning authority. The proposal is for the addition of a separate porch entrance and associated parking to the rear of the property, with the existing single garage being demolished. The proposal states intentions to apply a smooth white render to both properties for a more contemporary look. However, there are concerns that this might not be in keeping with the existing character and appearance of the street scene, which is made up of brick-built properties. The proposed new pavement crossover to the front of the existing property has been relocated to a new area with slightly amended parking arrangements on the front of the site, and the design statement submitted states that the crossover has been positioned to provide acceptable visibility displays. Consider recommend refusal. The newly positioned crossover shown in the drawings do not appear to provide acceptable visibility displays, and as such, the positioning of the proposed crossover could create vehicle conflict and risk of accidents to pedestrians and road users. Concerns are expressed with regards to the proposed use of white render on the dwelling houses, which would be out of keeping with the character and appearance of the street scene and locality.
Thank you, Mim. Any comments from councillors on this one? Councillor Drake.
Yes, I know this road particularly well, and that corner does not have good visibility at all, and therefore the previous objections, to my mind, have not been sufficiently addressed, and it could cause become an accident black spot, and therefore, as they haven't been addressed, I think we should go with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Drake. Any further comments from councillors? I can't see any. In which case, I'd like to add in that wording. So recommend refusal. The committee does not feel that previous reasons for refusal have been fully addressed, and then move into the main bulk. So just add a tiny sentence between refusal and the, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Otherwise, are we all minded towards a recommendation of refusal on that basis? Perfect. That's unanimous. So 1760 at 67 West Common doesn't meet the criteria, nor does 1821. So on to 5/2021 1910 at Clarence House, West Common. Your observations on this one, then?
Okay, again, no letters of objection have been received. So this site is set in the Harpenden Conservation Area and is part of the Metropolitan Greenbelt, with Clarence House itself being a locally listed building. The proposal is to erect a 4-bedroom detached dwelling at the far end of the rear garden. Access to the proposed new property will be via the existing entrance and will be shared jointly to serve both dwellings. The existing entrance to Clarence House is sited on a busy highway, and with the additional vehicles entering and exiting the site, this could cause conflict with motorists and pedestrians. The proposed new dwelling will be placed centrally and will be a 2-storey square-shaped structure consisting of gable ends on the roof, finished with timber detailing. Distances between the two properties is stated at approximately 42 metres, and parking is provided for 4 vehicles. There appear to be bedroom windows on the first floor side elevations, which may impact on the amenity of the neighbouring property in Berwick. There are a number of trees that are proposed to be removed to allow for the construction of the property, with pruning of further trees within the vicinity. The proposed site to the rear of the property appears to be overshadowed by trees, which could affect the amenity of future occupiers regarding loss of sunlight to the garden area and habitable rooms. No replanting details on a 2-to-1 ratio have been included within the proposal. Excuse me. Consider recommend refusal. This proposal does not demonstrate very special circumstances for development in the Greenbelt. No ecological report has been submitted regarding the impact and loss of habitat with regards to the proposed removal of the trees. No details have been submitted which give evidence on how replacement of removed trees on a 2-to-1 basis will be carried out. Concerns are expressed that the proposed new dwelling will result in requests for cutting back or removal of trees within the vicinity of the property due to loss of light and amenity to existing and future occupiers. Concerns are also expressed regarding possible conflict with both motorists and pedestrians due to the increase in vehicle movement from this small entry-exit point of the property onto a busy highway. And there is also the possible loss of amenity to neighbouring property in Berwick, which could be affected by the proposed windows on the first floor elevation.
Thank you, Mim. I also think, frankly, there's potential loss of amenity to the Clarence house or whatever the existing property is called. Particularly with that drive going so close to it. I mean, that's anyway. Any comments from councillors on this one? Councillor Turnbull.
Again, Chair, more to ask of officers' comments. If it's in the green belt, sure, there's an automatic presumption it's not capable of being developed. So why have they even applied to develop?
Because they think there is.
Okay, so it's in the green belt. To me, that says it all. Full stop.
Any other comments on this one? I can't see any. I mean, I think, yeah. I don't see we've got any other choice. All in favour of the recommending refusal?
Okay.
5, 20, 21, 1945 at 5 West Common Way. Your observations on this one, then?
Okay, no letters of objection received. This proposal is for an outbuilding clad with cedar wood to be constructed in the rear garden of the host property. It will consist of a flat roof and will be sited at least 2 metres from the neighbouring boundaries. It will be 4.7 metres high and 6 metres long. A semi-mature maple tree is detailed in the arboricultural report to be removed and relocated elsewhere on the site. The outbuilding will be replacing the existing shed and trampoline and will be erected with ventilated space underneath in order to protect the root protection areas of existing trees. Consider no objections provided all root protection measures are put in place in order to protect surrounding trees and that there will be no loss of amenity to neighbouring properties.
Thank you, Mim. Any comments from councillors on this one? Councillor Oliver.
So the height of this property is going to be 4.7 metres. The height of the property at number 4 West Commonwealth. There's a bit of competition going on here. The height of the property is going to be 4 metres, and the one that expressed concern.
On a minute. I apologise, it's 3.6 metres high.
Okay.
Yeah, 3.6. I've got the dimensions. I typed out the dimensions wrong. I apologise.
Okay.
It's yeah,
Sorry.
it's 4.7 metres. It's 6 metres wide by 4 metres. 6 metres long by 4 metres wide.
So do we have the height of it then?
Yes, 3.6 metres high.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mim. Any further comments from councillors on this one? Councillor Hill.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add. So, like I was saying in the previous one, I don't generally have any, except I think I'm sympathetic to people wanting to, build sort of outbuildings if they're, people working from home or something. And when this is half the length as well, the other one I think was just 12 meters long, I think. So this seems like it's not as high. It just seems like a more appropriate size, which could be a model for the applicants on the next door.
Yeah, and it saves them having to hit their golf balls into neighbours' gardens, which probably is quite useful. Any further councillor comments on this one? No. In which case, as I'm minded to go with the officer recommendation of no objection. All in favour? Perfect. So I think the next one is the one we did earlier, isn't it? Yep. And then 1819 doesn't meet the criteria. So on to 5/2021 18639 Tennyson Road.
Okay. No letters of objection received. This property is a semi-detached property set in the Harpenden Conservation Area, and the proposal is to extend to the side and rear and to increase the loft space with the inclusion of a loft dormer window and roof lights. The two-storey element of the side extension will face onto the garage area of number 5 Tennyson Road, with the side extension as a whole being set back and lower than the host building and remaining subservient to the original dwelling house. The proposed single-storey rear extension is built up to the boundary of neighbouring property number 11 Tennyson Road, but does not appear to create any loss of amenity. Changes to the existing loft area are the addition of a dormer window and a small increase in size, but these two do not appear to have any detrimental impact on either neighbouring properties, the street scene, or the Harpenden Conservation Area. Consider no objection subject to appropriate design and use of materials in the Harpenden Conservation Area.
Thank you, Mim. Any comments on this one? Councillor Turnbull.
Just a quick question. They're not raising the roof line, are they, by any chance?
No, I don't think they are. No, I didn't see.
Let's look at the pictures. The plans look a bit deceptive compared with the picture.
Let's have a look.
Maybe it's just the angle, the face-on view of the houses.
No, I'm pretty sure that they're not.
Okay, okay.
No.
Okay, thank
No.
you.
Okay, any other councillor comments on this one? I can't see any. In which case, I'm minded to go with the recommendation as set out. All in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous to me, which means we've reached the end of item 6. So appeals, which are just for no, sorry, give me 2 seconds. Oh, sorry. Appeals, which are just for noting. We've got an appeal in at 49 Park Mount. Again, just for noting, item 8, preservation order tree works. Item 9, conservation area tree works and technical applications. And item 10, the list of weekly St Albans District Council decisions. After which, just the date of the next meeting, which will be on Tuesday, the 10th of August, usual time, usual computer screens. And Plans North is next being held on Monday the 9th. And with that, I will bring this meeting to a close at 9:01, according to my screen, and bid everyone a good evening and try and rescue the curtain that's been attacking me for the